Welcome to the official Colts podcast. Jeffrey Gorman, JJ Stankevitz. Larra, Overton is here. We've got some great announcements coming up down the way, but we're going to make those announcements throughout the next couple of minutes. And what I'm saying is, I'm not making much sense right now, but
you're not.
But follow me here, okay? It's off season. You know, we're headed into summer right now. I want to do the ABCs of the Colts off season. And here's the thing. These ABCs are going to change when we get to camp. I may throw an ABCs of Westfield at you when we get up there. The ABCs of in-season next
post-draft
September.
edition.
I mean, there's a lot. But right now we're in the off-season, so I got a lot of topics to go over, the ABCs of the Colts off-season. So I'm going to throw a few to you if we could keep this thing rolling along. What do you think?
I like it.
You like the idea?
Let's rock and roll
Let's
with
go
it.
back to school.
This is like West 56th Street Elementary School.
That's it right now.
ABCs.
That's it right now. And it's we're going to have a field trip in here somewhere, but just let me go. We start with the ABCs. Of course, we start with A. Larra, Overton, let me start with you. The big A, JJ talked about it yesterday when we talked about this little idea I said with the ABCs. You have to start off with A with the quarterback when his name is Anthony Richardson.
Yeah.
The ABCs of Anthony Richardson off season to you.
To me, I think it's, how he responds to having some competition with Daniel Jones. And from everything that we have heard throughout, the period of time in which he's been training down in Florida and all of that, is that he's just continued to lock in and, understand in talking with Coach Steichen, Chris Ballard, what the expectation is of him. And I wholly expect that Anthony to thrive on having more competition within that quarterback room. He's such a competitive guy. He's a lifelong athlete. This is a situation in which I think you will really see growth from Anthony Richardson. And I thought, although it was a slim, window of time in which he was competing against Gardner Minshew to earn the starting job his rookie season, I thought he benefited from that, and I expect very much of the same this year. And I do think that it benefits this offense, that Daniel Jones, one thing we've talked with Chris Ballard about as we prepared for our Behind the Colts free agency episode that comes out on Tuesday night, he talked about that Daniel's skill set will complement this offense. It's offense, not going to be a completely revamp of the offense, when you see maybe Daniel coming in. And I think that's going to benefit all around.
What I'm curious about is just how, because you're right, Larra, everything we've heard about Anthony Richardson so far has been that he has taken to this competition. He's invested in it. He's accepted it. How does that play out when we get to OTAs? How does that play out when we get to those practices that otherwise, charting them can be a bit of a mirage sometimes because, you're working on installs, basic installs, but how does he look? How does he look in OTAs when you start seeing it on the grass? That is going to be a huge question we are going to get answered over the next couple of months.
I can't wait for that, too, because, as we speak right now, I think he's throwing the ball somewhere in Florida. As we speak right now, working hard on this thing. And I'm going to get up, because it's such a important topic in the NFL as quarterback, how do you notice a difference in him in the second OTA practice, JJ, that you're going to watch in a couple of months from now or a couple of weeks?
Yeah, I think,
what difference do you notice?
I think it's not about one singular practice. I think it's about the scope of it, of all the practices that we'll get to see going into then veteran minicamp.
Yeah.
How does he just take it in totality, not in a singular day? And I don't know. It's one of those things where I think we'll know it when we see it, where it's not going to be, he completed 68% of his passes during OTAs. He's made a stride. It's just how does it look?
Yeah.
Eye test is a very nebulous thing, but I think we're going to kind of know just from the eye test.
And really quickly to follow up on that, I think it's where you see, you get the highs, you get the jaw-dropping type of plays, but you want to see, the lower end be higher, right?
Yeah.
You want the ceiling and the floor to be a little closer together, right? Not to have as drastic of a roller coaster of highs and lows. It's more of a highs and mediums, right? Where you obviously are going to have, days where throws are off or they're incompletions, whatever, but, not so far off from what we have seen in previous opportunities.
I do think 7-on-7 might be a decent window into this, because even last year during training camp, I think he struggled a little bit during some of those 7-on-7 periods. The ball was on the ground quite a bit. And those are periods where you got to be in rhythm and you got to be accurate, because there's no pass rush. There's no, if you escape the pocket in a 7-on-7, it's kind of everything was covered and there was nothing open there. So is he throwing it on time and is he throwing it accurately in 7-on-7 could be something to look for there.
Wait, we got a lot to look for. We're going to get through the ABCs of this Colts offseason.
I feel like B, C, and D are kind of a cluster altogether.
Let's do them together.
Tell me about it, but I got to stay on A for one second. Give me 1 second for A. A also stands for Ava, who helps us out week in and week out behind the camera. Thank you so much.
Ave.
Ava, it is the last show of you, and we want to thank you here while we're live with all of our audience and JJ and Larra, and say thank you from the bottom of our hearts. You've done a great job.
Absolutely.
Oh, that was nice.
You sort of hear that in the background.
And you're right. We kind of clumped these in. So let's do that. B, C, and D we're talking about. I threw ball hawk defense in there because of Lou Anarumo and his defense. And what we got, obviously, with Cam Bynum coming in here, Charvarius Ward, competition and depth. So if we want to, let's go B, C, and D. Ball hawking, competition, depth.
So ball hawking, the Colts were 7th in takeaways last year.
Nice.
Tied with the Cincinnati Bengals with 25 takeaways. Interceptions, though, were Colts were 5th in interceptions. The Bengals were 8th in interceptions. So, this defense does have a little bit of that in them. I don't know if necessarily you're going to have more this year. It's kind of hard to bet on, we're going to increase our takeaways. 25 is a lot of takeaways that the Colts had last year. But can you just more consistently disrupt plays? More sacks is going to be big. More pass deflections. Fewer open receivers. Like when Lou Anarumo, was on the film breakdown I did with him, and he talked about playing tight coverage. That right there, that's going to be a big thing that the Colts are going to be doing more of. Can they just be a little bit more impactful in disrupting things while still being a defense that takes the ball away like they were last year?
And then with that, when you get the takeaways, do something with them. I think that you far too often last season were not complimentary when your defense took the ball away in capitalizing on the opportunities that they gave you.
Yeah, the problem here is the Colts were 7th in takeaways and 19th in turnover differential. Because they're still at -4, because you're right, Larra, they would take the ball away and then they would just give it right back.
Is that guy, kind of a silly question, but let's stay right there. We're talking ball hawk defense, depth, it all fits into there. Is Charvarius Ward, is Mooney one of those guys where say, hey, we're not throwing to his side of the field? Is he that type of player that he can have that sort of resume with opposing offensive coordinators?
That's the hope. That's the hope that he is that guy for this defense. And I asked him when I sat down with him, how much he takes pride in, they didn't throw my way. And that means he doesn't get interceptions, he doesn't get pass deflections, but if he's targeted twice a game, that's not because teams are that's because teams are we don't want to throw near Charvarius Ward.
Kenny Moore gets better, right? Kenny Moore got better really quick like that. All great players, but somebody surrounding him when we're talking about depth. Kenny Moore, Cam Bynum on the backside and across from him, wherever Kenny saw it up with Charvarius there.
I've talked with Kenny multiple times about this and how excited he is to have these complementary pieces, within the secondary, especially from, we have seen this group be at their best when there's just so much trust and just the ability for the nonverbal cues between, Kenny and the rest of that secondary and how they have all played so well in complement to each other. And I think that Charvarius and Cam are both testaments to that. I love the confidence that each of them come in with, and they're very different in the confidence, that they bring. That is really going to elevate this group. I also think it's going to be really good for guys like, Juju Brents and Jalen Jones,
Nick Cross.
Nick Cross, to have, leadership, to have experience like that in the room, to have those guys to learn from and help elevate their game. I think Kenny is going to be Kenny. He plays at that level. He's going to bring what he gives you each and every week. I think I really look for the rest of that room, speaking to the competition and the depth, to level up.
Can I throw a fun one at you and we'll move on? This is B, C, and D all kind of jumbled together in the Colts offseason ABCs. Does a rookie offensive lineman compete for a starting position this upcoming season?
That's a good one. Yes.
A rookie?
Yes.
Okay.
I think so. You look at the way the Colts line is made up right now, where you've got Bernard Ryman, Quentin Nelson, Braden Smith. Those guys are locked in. And then you've got Tanner Bortolini, probably at center. You're probably looking at Matt Gonzalez as a right guard right now. But there is a potential that you might look at Matt Gonzalez and say, we need that tackle depth. He can provide that. Maybe we have him battle it out with someone at right guard who we draft on day 1, day 2, even day 3, and just kind of see where it goes. Maybe it becomes Tanner Bortolini as a competition at center. I think that is definitely on the table here for this team.
I think so. What do you think, Larra? The way that Chris Ballard goes and he says, hey, defensive line,
anything's
offensive
on the
line.
table. I think we got to keep moving. Let's go. Keep moving. Let's go.
Okay, here we go. Let's go to E for explosive plays. All right, we have 20 or more plus yards. Colts had 69 of them last year. Is that they were tied for 8th with that, by the way, and that was with AR missing 6 games. Is it the same stats this year, or is it better?
No, I think you got to be better, right? You got to be better in that area, right?
Tied for 8th. Tied for 8th.
8th is good, but the problem is if you're tied for 8th and then the efficiency of your offense is maybe not top 10. If you're not going to be as efficient as an offense, you need to be like top 5 in explosive plays.
Okay.
I'd like to see that number either stay the same or go up. But mostly I want to see the efficient plays go up. It's boring, but you get 5 yards on first down because you completed a pass or, you had a run that went for that. Those are the plays that are going to help your offense out almost more than the explosives. I think the explosives are great, but 69 over the course of a 17-game season is like 4 a game. Mm-hmm. If you can up the efficient plays so you have, I don't know, I'm just throwing a number out, 20 efficient plays in a game, maybe more, that will help those explosive plays be more impactful.
I think you've got to look at the talent with which you have and the opportunity for explosive plays when you have weapons like a Jonathan Taylor and Alec Pierce that we have seen. And then, you're going to bolster maybe some of that within the draft as well. Then you also think about Anthony Richardson at quarterback. Looking at the pieces that you have, you certainly want to capitalize on the opportunity that you have for those explosive plays, but then also be, better in balance, with some of the plays that you have, we talk about, the mid-range games, so to speak, and you're certainly going to see that improve from what we saw last year. We talked about, just being more, complementary. It was a little bit feast or famine last year in certain areas of the offense, so you want to see that a little more even distribution across that. But yeah, I think from the explosive play standpoint, given the explosiveness that you saw last season with, a guy like Alec Pierce, what JT can give you, especially if he's on the field and teams have to account for the threat of AR and JT together. That's going to create great opportunities for you to capitalize on those type of situations.
I like clumping in some letters. We're going to continue to do that. Finish and fast, I put up for F. Growth and hopeful. Finish and fast, I'm just going to skip right over right there. Growth and hopeful, if you guys could give me who are you looking forward to watching in camp, that you're going to watch that growth. You're going to see it from either year 1 to 2 or year 2 to 3.
I'm actually going to go finish and fast really quickly because one of the things that this team has certainly struggled to do was close out games, especially, fourth quarter. Shane has not shied away from that. And I do think that is where you look to the experience within your locker room to help elevate that. Guys we've talked so much about the guys coming in, the playoff experience that they've brought in, being part of winning teams. I think that will be a great influence on how this team prepares to close out games much more effectively than we have seen in the past. Growth and hopeful. I'm really excited for Josh Downs. That's a guy who last year obviously had a slower start to the season because of the injury. Given his being able to have healthy offseason, healthy all through training camp, to me, he is probably one of the biggest factors in this offensive success. I think he's one of AR's more reliable targets. We know that those two have a great rapport, and I think that the growth of Josh Downs will be mirrored in the growth of Anthony Richardson.
For my growth and hopeful, I'm going how the rush and coverage can work together on defense, where if you're going to play more tight coverage, maybe that leads to a quarterback hitching a little bit more. Maybe, Lou Anarumo is kind of this mad scientist back there with his coverages. Maybe that gets a quarterback to hitch a little bit more. Coverage helping out the rush. Because last year, how many times did we see Latu beat the guy in front of him and the ball's whizzing by his ear?
Yeah.
That right there, for a guy like Latu, could lead to his sack production going up. It could lead to the sack production for a Kwity Paye, DeForest Buckner, getting Samson Ebukam back. Maybe all of a sudden the coverage helps out the rush that the Colts have invested so much into. Now they've invested a lot into the coverage with Ward and with Bynum, and then even Lou Anarumo I would throw in there as you're investing in coverage by hiring him. Maybe that helps out all the investments you made in your defensive line.
All right, Bernie Ryman, I'm looking at you. A little growth, a little hopeful. I know that's crazy. He's been playing growth
I think
football.
He's already pretty good.
I know, but I'm saying like this. Pro Bowl this
Okay.
year. Now that's the
okay.
growth in the
All right.
That's what I'm looking for out of Bernie Ryman.
You do kind of feel like that trajectory is certainly within the realm of possibility.
And
for him.
I also want to say this: even if he doesn't, even if he just stays where he's at,
It's a really tough. It's tough, right? Like just in terms of how that all shakes out.
Having a good left tackle is really hard to find in the NFL, and having a good left tackle you took in the third round is even harder to find. And the Colts got it with Bernie Ryman. So the value that he brings to this team as just a good player, like baseline, he can get better. I absolutely think he can get better. But sometimes we need to temper our expectations and be like, look, he's a good player who, is probably going to be part of this offensive line for a long time. And that's fine. That's good. You want good players on that line, and Bernhard Ryman's a good player.
I feel like that's what you saw with Anthony Costanzo for so
Yeah.
long,
Yes.
right? Like
he never was a Pro Bowler, but he was a good player.
Oh my, and like highly respected across the league. But like he was what he was.
Yes.
He gave great. Like he didn't need the accolades to define who he was,
Yes.
right? And everyone in this organization from the fan base highly valued what he gave you week in, week out, regardless of maybe how everyone else voted him from the popularity contest that is the Pro Bowl, right?
I would agree with that.
At
Yep.
Larra Overton, at JJ Stankevitz. If you liked us, let us know. If you don't like us, let us know. These are the ABCs of the offseason. We want to continue to move along right here. Guys, I'm going to throw it to Larra here. You want an I or you want a J? I'm going I, International, obviously the Berlin game, or J, Jim Bob Cooter, the ABCs of the offseason for the Colts offensive coordinator.
Give me International.
Okay, what do you like?
This is a huge opportunity for the Colts because you are hosting the game
Yes,
internationally.
home team.
This is different than when you went to Frankfurt 2 years ago. This is the opportunity to continue to cultivate a huge fan base and to engage with a very passionate base of fans that we have seen in Germany, really across Europe in general. And when we were all over there, when we were in Frankfurt, we saw how much that, enthusiasm was there. I think that is going to be, surpassed even so when you go to Berlin with all the activation that there is, the way that, Bjorn Warner has continued to kind of aggregate a fan base and engage with fans over there. That's one thing for me that I think is going to be really intriguing. And I cannot wait to see with the investment being made over there, how the Colts fan base in Berlin just continues to grow, because it's a very sports-centric, sports-passionate area, steeped in history that I think really aligns well with this team, this organization, what this team is going to do this season.
Okay.
Jim Bob Cooter. All right. The Colts last year, situationally, a little below average. You're at 18th in third down conversion rate, 22nd in red zone touchdown rate. You'd like to see those numbers go up. I think Jim Bob Cooter is highly respected in this building for his offensive mind, for his evaluation of players, for his coaching ability. You'd like to see everyone on that coaching staff kind of work to get those numbers up. Players got to go execute, certainly. But I think that's probably a big charge for those guys is, okay, we got to be better on third down. We got to be better in the red zone. Those are going to be two critical areas that the Colts need to improve on offense.
I want to stay here. I got a question for you, Larra. Mm-hmm. Is it tough in your mind, and JJ, you can chime in too, is it tough in your mind for a Jim Bob Cooter right now who says, I've got Anthony Richardson coming in, but I have another gentleman coming in Daniel Jones, who we've said as an organization, there is a competition. Does that throw him off a little bit as far as preparation and things going and what you want to accomplish when OTAs come around into camp? With that question mark.
I don't think so. Not for a guy who's as experienced as Jim Bob is. He's navigated situations like this before, right, JJ? Like in terms of this is something that a lot of teams, have done or continue to do. He has experience in this. I think if anything, for somebody like Jim Bob, you embrace the challenge a little bit of working with both quarterbacks, and you're going to really find out a lot about the rest of the offense with what you see in each of these guys. I think that he will continue to learn a lot from getting these guys in the building. And Jim Bob has proven his ability to, adapt and evolve in tandem with Shane Steichen based on whoever's under center.
Yeah. Let's keep it moving here. I don't have anything else to add on that one.
All right, good stuff. We're moving on the Jays. We're going to the kickstart. You want to stay in the kicking game really quick there? Matt Gay, Spencer Schrader right there. There's, there's competition
Colts are
there.
20th in field goal percentage made last year. Mm-hmm. For the investment they made into Matt Gay, that does need to be better. Now, he was dealing with some stuff last year.
Sure he was.
So hopefully he's through all that. And, the big thing last year was the 50-plus yard field goals were near the bottom of the league with Matt Gay. I don't have it in front of me. I think it was like 3-9 from 50 plus. Let me pull that up. But that's a number that, does need to be better. And I think you have a guy who's proven in this league in Matt Gay, who, he was 3-9 from 50 plus. So you got a guy who's proven in this league. I think he'll get back to being a little more consistent with those kicks, especially being more removed from whatever he was dealing with last year.
We're familiar with Schrader. He hasn't made a kick over 50 yards in the NFL, but I'm sure he'll have his opportunity somewhere down the line.
I mean, look, Matt Gay, I think Matt Gay is going to be his kicker on this team this year.
Good player, yeah.
But Schrader being there, you like having the secondary guy, a guy we know. He's been around this building. He made some big kicks for other teams last year, specifically for the Chiefs in that one game. I think didn't he get a game winner for the Chiefs or something? So, yeah, I mean, the kicking game's got to be better, but I think the Colts got the right guys to do it.
We're moving on. The ABCs of the Colts offseason, L, and it goes to you, L-O, leadership. And here's what I want to bring up. Leadership, we saw it last year at the end of the season. DeForest Buckner got up there with a microphone in his face and talked about this year and talked about the season and talked about the locker room. I saw a true leader right there in that moment. Does that continue to keep on? I know it's not something he didn't have before and all of a sudden he got it. He's always been that quiet type of leader, but is it more so this year after what happened last year?
I don't think it's more so on DeForest. DeForest just needs to remain as he has always led. To me, it's how is that creating a ripple effect across the locker room with other guys stepping up and being even stronger leaders, right? You want that type of leadership to be infectious across the locker room, especially when it is coming from someone like a DeForest Buckner. So how are the other position groups? How are the other areas of this locker room elevating their leadership to, what DeForest so, boldly stated? And, how are they? Accountability is a huge thing for Shane. He has harped on that over and over, and you want to see that really resonate with this group. And by bringing in some competition, bringing in some outside influences, I do think that you will see more and more of that. But yeah, you want to see that. You think about, you lost some leadership too with Ryan Kelly moving on. So, who is it that continues? Quentin Nelson is obviously a lead by example type of guy. He's a very strong leader in that group. Who are the other guys now who can level up within that? Jonathan Taylor, a guy who's been a captain, Michael Pittman, who's been a captain, Zaire, Kenny, all of these guys who are considered to be very strong leaders. How do they take it up a notch and also demand that from the rest of their room as well?
All right, L, that's for leadership. DeForest Buckner, your choice. M's, we're going A.D. Mitchell, or are we going to go Charvarius Ward, Mooney?
I want to go A.D. Mitchell.
Okay.
We already kind of talked about Mooney. I thought it was interesting when I chatted with Daniel Jeremiah at the NFL Combine. And I was like, which player on this team are you most excited to see develop in 2025? And the first thing he said is A.D. Mitchell. Like, draft people, they still love A.D. Mitchell. They still think this guy's got a lot in it. And you look at the film last year, that dude can get open. He can get open better than a lot of players in the NFL. He's got to be able to get open on time. But look, I think an offseason to kind of digest everything, to come back fresh, I'm still very, very interested in what the Colts have in A.D. Mitchell. And the thing about him is that I really like is because Alec Pierce ascended last year, you're not relying on A.D. Mitchell right now. If whatever you get out of him as probably your fourth receiver it's not a bonus, it's important. But if he all of a sudden, if he shows up and it's like, oh my gosh, this guy really, he got it. You could have some real depth and competition in that receiver room. And that could be more of that healthy tension that Chris Ballard was talking about. Like, if all of a sudden A.D. Mitchell shows up and it's like, ooh, here we go. We got a guy here. You can't have four receivers on the field all the time. You're not going, 10 personnel on every single play. So you might have that's going to elevate everyone else. And we know Josh Downs is a really good player. We know Pitt's a good player. We know Pierce is a good player. If you're able to add a fourth in there, watch out. That group could get real spicy real fast.
And history has proven, this is something that Reggie's really talked about, like how pivotal a second year is for a young receiver, right? Like that's kind of one of those, it's a critical time in terms of development because of that difficult transition coming out of college, coming into a new system, adjusting to your quarterback, adjusting to the demands of the league. So that second year is one of those that you really see guys kind of defined by.
Looking forward to it. Yeah, that year 1 to year 2 development. All right, guys, I'm just going to bounce all over here. Noticeable is our offensive line. We kind of covered that.
Mm-hmm.
The playoff drought, I'm not staying there. It's been too long. Obviously, the worst drought since 1995 for the Colts. Quentin Nelson, we gave some love to. I was going to ask you about his Hall of Fame.
If you got a Q, I mean, you got it. If we're doing Q.
I guess whenever he becomes Hall of Fame eligible on day one, do you and I go, oh, do you think Quentin will get in this year? I mean, is that type of player that we're talking about?
I mean, he's got to play for longer, right?
Okay.
But look at what happened with Zach Martin, the guy who, by the way, preceded him at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Zach Martin, the moment he announced his retirement, it's like that dude's walking into the Hall of Fame on day one. There should be no debate that Zach Martin's going into the Hall of Fame immediately. Quentin Nelson keeps this up.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8 more, whatever it takes.
Indianapolis' own Zach Martin, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Fishers, yeah.
No, Indy.
I think he's from Fishers.
No, he went to Chittard.
He did go to Chittard, but I believe he's from Fishers.
We're going to look that up.
We're going to look that one up and figure that out.
Someone called your rights.
Yeah.
Someone called your rights right now.
I mean, look, Quentin Nelson right now, the trajectory he is on is to put himself into that air, but you can't crown guys too early. And I think, look, he's one of the best 3 interior offensive linemen in the NFL, and he has been since he debuted. But when you're talking about Hall of Fame, you got to do it for a decade minimum to really put yourself in that conversation.
For sure. Moving on, the ABCs of the Colts offseason. The running back room. Guys, I guess my question to you is this. Are you surprised if there's 3 carried? Do you think they'll carry 3 running backs or 4, number one? And if it's 3, is it set in stone right now with Tyler Goodson, Khalil Herbert, and, of course, Jonathan Taylor?
I think you could add through the draft.
Yeah?
I think you still could.
I think you could add through the draft. I do. Haven't we heard, JJ, that there's quite a bit of depth at that position?
This is like an all-time running back class.
Really?
It's weaker in some other areas, but running back is one where it's, pretty fruitful. In a day 2, day 3 scenario, you could still get really quality type of guys to create some competition within that room. And also how many you carry, I think it's going to be a little dependent on what you do at tight end. Right? Like how many tight ends you carry could directly correlate with how many running backs you carry.
100%.
Okay, let's keep moving on. This is a fun one. We were going to talk about Chris Ballard's offseason would be the S for shifting gears, but we've already kind of discussed that. I just want to move on right now to the T. This is going to be fun. The third quarterback. What does that look like to you? Obviously, we don't know who the first and second quarterback is, but I got a good idea. I know the 2 guys that are going to be battling out. But that third quarterback, you want to start?
I'm very interested if the Colts carry a third. If they draft someone potentially and say this guy is a developmental prospect who we want to have in the building, we want to have him on our team, that right there, it's not even close to the most pressing thing I'm interested in the NFL draft, but when we're into hour 4 of day 3,
right.
If the Colts haven't taken a quarterback, I'm like, okay. I guess, we're going to roll with AR and Daniel Jones. But if they have taken a quarterback, it's going to be like, okay, they might think we really like this guy as a developmental prospect. Let's keep him around. Kind of like they did with Sam Ehlinger for 4 years, where Sam
have Jason Bean too.
And you do have Jason Bean, another developmental guy. But, the Colts valued Sam Ehlinger to the point where it's like, we want to keep him on our roster for 4 years because he's a guy who we really like having around here. Sam's also still a free agent. So could something still potentially occur there later into free agency? If you're like, we didn't really like any of these guys in the draft, but we really do want to have a third quarterback, could you explore something there? I don't know. That's just a really interesting one to me. And it's a position that, you hope never plays.
Right.
But is still you like having that presence sometimes of a third quarterback if it's the right guy.
And conversely to the running back situation, it's not a very deep quarterback class that we have heard. It's not quite as strong as maybe we have seen in recent years. Can you explain a little bit, JJ, how that emergency QB rule might impact what they decide to do at that position? Because you can carry a third on the practice squad, correct?
You have to carry that player on your active roster.
Okay.
There was almost a change to the practice squad last year. You can still you have to have that guy on your active roster, but essentially when you have to make guys inactive on game day, you can designate your third quarterback as the emergency third quarterback, which means if your starter gets hurt and your backup gets hurt, then you can bring in your third quarterback.
Okay.
It was the rule that was brought back when the 49ers basically had to play Christian McCaffrey at quarterback in the NFC Championship a couple years ago.
Yeah.
They were like that close. They were, that down on quarterbacks. So, yeah, I mean, some teams have carried a third like the Colts.
Yeah.
Others have just gone with two and been like, if we get down to our third, we're probably like screwed anyway. I'm curious how the Colts approach that now with an opening potentially there.
All right, we're winding down the ABCs of the Colts offseason. That was the T for third quarterback. Underappreciated, I threw up there. We're going to gloss right over that. Voice of Lucas Oil Stadium is you. I was going to say if you want to throw a call a first down at us right now, you can. If you don't want to, I understand it's offseason. You got to rest the voice.
No, I mean, you guys just got to join in.
Okay.
And that's another Indianapolis Colts.
Third down.
No, first down. Yikes. It's the offseason for everyone.
Moving on. Here we go. Westfield, Indiana awaits. One thing you love about Westfield for training camp is...
It's the fans.
It's the fans.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
Fans up there in Westfield.
I thought you were going with the third down call, is what I thought you were doing.
He said
third down.
He said first down.
But... I didn't. Did you say first?
Oh, I did. Yeah, JJ calls it first down.
I didn't read the notes. I was just looking at Jeffrey. She's like, give us a call. So I thought you were like, because usually that's your big fire-up moment. That's where I thought you were going.
I would like to apologize to Larra Overton right now, though, because a couple weeks ago, I went on the two radio stations in Chicago, 670 and ESPN, with my guys, Waddle and Sylvie on ESPN and Lawrence Holmes on The Score, and they both independently asked me to please do your call of a Dio Odengbo sack. And, I mean, I bellowed those things out over the airwaves in Chicago. And unfortunately, Larra's office is two doors down from mine. So I'm sure Larra was just like typing away and then just a sack by Dio Odengbo. Just,
I knew exactly what was happening.
Yeah.
Because the thing is like I had been in JJ's office and everyone was profusely texting him for the accurate pronouncer of Dio Odengbo. So I was hearing him like break it down. So I had a little bit of a little preparation, for it, but it was hilarious. So.
That's great. Yeah, we do hear the bellowing sounds of you in your office sometimes. Larra's not alone. That is the golden voice of Lucas Oil Stadium, JJ Stankevitz. Even he has an off season like we all do. The X Factor comes up after W. We're going to gloss right over that. The why is this. We were going to go Y for tight end, but let me do this one really quick. The why is for... Why don't you join us down at Lucas Oil Stadium for the Colts draft party on April the 24th? It's presented by Bud Light. Fans are invited to come to Lucas Oil Stadium on the 24th. Watch the first round of the NFL draft. We're all going to be down there. It's going to be stuff to give away and everything, autographs. Current Colts players will be down there. Legendary Colts players from the past will be down there. It's fans 21 and over, and tickets are available at Colts.com/draft. for $10. It's going to be a fun time. We end with Z of the alphabet. I just wanted to throw Zaire Franklin's name in there. Does he lead the team in tackles in a Lou Anarumo defense?
Yes.
Ooh. He does. Everything's kind of funneled to 44 still with the same thing?
Yeah, I think he still does. I want to end on Z in a different note.
Okay.
Z is the last letter of the alphabet.
Yes, it is.
And you teased an announcement. Mm-hmm. This is the last official Colts podcast
How about
episode.
that? The set, this looks like this.
We've got some really good stuff coming up on the Colts podcast network. Mm. But we're kind of changing up our format.
You'll still get the shows.
You're still going to get the shows. You're going to see a lot of Jeffrey.
We'll see
You're going to see a lot of me. We're going to have Larra on both of our shows quite a bit.
On both of them. Matt Taylor will drop
all your favorite people. Yep. We're also another big change, by the way. Mm-hmm. I'm no longer going to be hosting Instant Reaction. That'll be Casey Valier with Bill Brooks.
You guys know Showcase, Casey Valier.
We love Case around here. So Case is going to take over that, and we're going to have a couple new shows that we're going to debut in a couple of weeks with some big-time guests.
More Colts information always at Colts.com, at Larra Overton on Twitter X, at JJ Stankevitz. Guys, I enjoyed it. The set's going to look different next time we all gather on this set. So I don't know who's getting the couch. I don't know who's getting the table. Can I take the helmet home
Sure,
with
take
me?
the helmet, And by the way, to everyone who has watched our nonsense or listened to our nonsense for the last couple of years, thank you.
Yeah.
None of us are going anywhere. We're just changing the format of what we're doing to try to get a little more oomph and bang for our buck out of.
No better time as the Colts have evolved their offseason approach. We are evolving the podcast
100%.
Format, right?
That is, we are doing it in tandem. I think what they're doing is a little more important than
we're just following the lead, though.
Exactly, right.
And we have Behind the Colts.
Yes.
Tonight, 7 p.m.
Here we go.
I caught a sneak peek of it. It's very good.
Oh, thank you so much. Shout out to Colts Productions, all of our crew Matt Wilkening, Drew Davidson, everyone who had a hand in executing this and making it possible. So much fun. So this will be a look at free agency, and then we'll, of course, kind of shift into draft mode here and get you those episodes.
Great job, Larra, because you got to keep those plates spinning up there because it's a fine line when you walk with cameras inside the building, behind the curtain, finding out the way that the Colts do business like other NFL teams do. It's a tough place.
It's a testament to Chris Ballard, Shane Steichen allowing us to do this, having the support of it, and Dave Knickerbocker, our VP of Content and Production, to continuing. This is something that we evolved, right? We'd been doing with the next pick. We've taken this to Behind the Colts. So really excited for fans to get another kind of all access behind the curtain type of look at this offseason.
Just for you guys to win more awards like you have before with the past. That's what it's down to. Guys, we enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Ava, thank you again for all your help behind the camera. Colts.com has the latest information. Everybody watching on the YouTube channel, we thank you. For Larra Overton and JJ Stankevitz, we will talk to you next week. Looking a little bit different, but we'll talk to you next week.
2 weeks.
In 2 weeks, sir.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
We're going to look a little different.
2 weeks we'll look a little different. How
Stay
about
tuned.
That? Thanks for backing me up there. Thanks for watching. We'll see you then.